The other day we heard that CNN host Chris Cuomo hated his job. He said that he didn't want to peddle in things he thought were ridiculous. He lamented the hyper-partisan nature of cable news. He said he didn't value these things and change must come. It was a brief bit of honesty. The dude was clearly upset. Well, now he's coming out and saying it never happened. It did happen, and even BuzzFeed News is calling him out. But let me tell you something. In what may be one of the bigger and crazier stories, which I'm surprised no one's talking about, CNN has been caught peddling fake news. This is the big story. Who cares if Chris Cuomo hates his job? Chris Cuomo just admitted he's not in isolation. And CNN has been running stories claiming he is. They have been caught peddling fake news. This is the most egregious example, or not the egregious. This is the most blatant example of CNN running primetime fake news I have seen from them yet. Look, you want to come out and say, oh, that camera angle was faked, or Anderson Cooper wasn't really standing in the flood, whatever. You can argue that they frame shots. You can argue that they exaggerate points. I'm telling you that CNN at night is claiming Chris Cuomo is in isolation and he can't leave. Dr. Sanjay Gupta talking with Chris Cuomo just the other night. That CNN has a segment. Can Cuomo leave isolation? He shares update on his symptoms. Do you know what Chris Cuomo was saying in his radio show when he was ranting and why he was ranting? It would seem that the main reason the dude was upset is that someone on a bike approached him and started saying things to him, and he got mad about it. He went off saying, what, I can't tell some loser on a bike how I feel because I'm a celebrity? Well, hold on, Chris. What do you mean, some loser on a bike? There was a guy on a bike you were talking to? I thought you were isolated. Okay, so maybe it was just, he's at his home by himself and his family has gone away because, he doesn't want to get his family sick. He's quarantined. That's what CNN's telling us. Dr. Sanjay Gupta says, you're going to have to wait. I know it's been 2 weeks, buddy. And he says, oh, gee, gosh darn it. I guess I'm stuck at home. Well, guess what? The biker in the East Hamptons has come out now, given a statement saying he saw Chris Cuomo with a woman who appeared to be his wife and kids playing on a property that apparently doesn't have anything built on it yet. And he said, isn't he supposed to be quarantined? And there it is. Now, I can't tell you exactly what happened. We've got a he said, she said, but I'll tell you what I think happened. I think Chris Cuomo got caught. I think he wasn't supposed to be out with his family because he's supposed to be isolated. That's what CNN's been telling us. And he got caught. He was out on Easter Sunday. Oh, what's that? I thought all the people worshiping on Easter Sunday weren't supposed to be doing it with his family. And he's supposed to be under quarantine. Somebody saw him and said, hey, man, aren't you supposed to be quarantined? And Chris Cuomo got all angry and bent out of shape about it. The woman apparently, I'll read you the story. This is nuts. Look, man, this is as far as I can tell what's going on. Maybe there's something I missed. I don't know. I'll tell you this. Chris Cuomo got mad at this dude on a bike, yelled at him. So then he went on his radio show and started complaining about what he's doing. Maybe the real reason Chris Cuomo hated his job is because they're having him pretend to be quarantined. The other day, I said, I think it's because they want him to be partisan. He said something on his show that he's never going to beat Hannity. He's never going to beat, Rachel Maddow. And that he doesn't value this. He finds it ridiculous. I said, maybe they're going to Chris and saying, come on, man, ruffle those feathers. Say Orange Man bad. Maybe there's something else. Maybe they said, I know you were sick and you're better now, but just stay home because the ratings are great. We love doing this, Chris at home. I don't know. I don't want to speculate too much. I'll just tell you this. Some dude, here's what it says. New York Post, I hate bullies. Bicyclist verbally attacked by Chris Cuomo fires back. We now have confirmation. Chris Cuomo said the confrontation happened. This guy said, I saw him with his family. What's our best conclusion? CNN is pumping out fake news by pretending that Chris Cuomo is in isolation. He is not. Busted. CNN, fake news. I'd love to hear a response. I'd love to see everyone start talking about this. Now, look, we have this story from BuzzFeed where he's actually trying to deny it ever happened. Maybe it's because now he's starting to realize, he just pulled the curtain back and we all saw it's fake news. Well, BuzzFeed's coming for you. And if BuzzFeed's going to call you out for it, it must be bad. Here's what BuzzFeed says. After saying on his radio show that he doesn't like what he does professionally and doesn't think it's worth his time, CNN host Chris Cuomo walked back his comments after and denied having said he's unhappy at his job, even though we all know. On his Sirius XM show on Monday, Cuomo spoke candidly about his job and how the pandemic and him personally getting coronavirus has shaped his outlook. I don't want to spend my time doing things that I don't think are valuable enough to me personally, Cuomo said in audio heard by the New York Post and CBS News. I don't value indulging irrationality, hyperpartisanship. I don't like what I do professionally. I don't think it's worth my time. He also spoke about his frustrations with living life as a public figure. Quote, I'm basically being perceived as successful in a system that I don't value. I'm seen as being good at being on TV and advocating for different positions, but I don't know if I value those things. Certainly not as much as I value being able to live my life on my own terms. On Tuesday, Cuomo walked back his comments on his radio show, denying he disparaged his job and the company he works for. In a clip that was released on Tuesday's show, Cuomo said he loves the position, blah, blah, blah. He said it never happened. We get it. He also lashed out at the media outlets who reported on his Monday comments saying they were taken out of context. He says, I have never been in a better position. Yeah, look, I get it, man. You got mad, you had an angry outburst, for sure. But let's get to the nitty gritty. First of all, the dude's clearly lying. We know he had an angry outburst. Everybody's reporting this. And the reason why it's significant is because we have already heard other CNN staffers complaining the network has become the anti-Trump network and they don't do news anymore. Now here's the Bicyclist speaking out, in as far as I can tell, thus confirming that either Chris Cuomo went behind the back of CNN or in any case, CNN is consistently pumping out fake news. Cuomo is not in isolation. The New York Post reports, the Long Island resident blasted as a loser fat tire biker by Chris Cuomo in a radio rant told the Post on Tuesday that the CNN host is nothing but a bully and has even filed a complaint with the police. So here's the guy on his bike with his fat tires. Apparently, here's what he said. Quote, sometimes he's scary stupid. The East Hampton man, who asked only to be identified by his first name, David, said of Andrew Cuomo's little brother. Chris Cuomo launched into a tirade on his Sirius XM show Monday night about how he didn't like what he did for a living anymore and ranted about a confrontation he had with a bike rider outside his property Easter Sunday when the coronavirus-infected TV star was hanging out with his family. David, who had been riding by, started hassling Chris Cuomo about social distancing. No, New York Post. The story is that he was saying, hey, whoa, this guy, I saw him on TV. They said he was isolated. They're lying. Busted. That's why he got mad. And the CNN star later seethed on his radio show that one big downside to money and fame is that he couldn't tell the guy to go to hell. Quote, I don't want some Jack A. loser, fat tire biker being able to pull up over and get in my space and talk BS to me. I don't want to hear it, Cuomo raged. I want to be able to tell you to go to hell, to shut your mouth. I don't get that doing what I do for a living. Me being able to tell you to shut your mouth, or I will do to you the way you guys do to each other. This dude's got anger management problems. I'll tell you what. Remember the Fredo thing? He went nuts. That's what he's really complaining about. David told the Post he was stunned that Cuomo verbally attacked him the way he did. The 65-year-old longtime resident said he was just out for a bike ride before Easter dinner when he spotted who he thought was Chris Cuomo on property he says the CNN anchor bought in East Hampton last year. The acreage is still being developed. A steel frame for its future house is all that's up at the moment, David said. You mean to tell me there's no house there? Cuomo broke isolation, went out with his family, went to a property he has in the Hamptons where there's no actual house, and someone spotted him, and Cuomo was like, I'm angry about this. Now, how dare you call me out? What's CNN reporting then? What are they reporting? Fake news. David said Cuomo was with his wife, another woman, and 3 kids who were playing around the property. The resident said he stopped and sat on his bike well over 100 feet from the property. I just looked and said, is that Chris Cuomo? Isn't he supposed to be quarantined? Cuomo had been regularly airing his TV and radio shows from his family home in Southampton, although from the basement as he stayed quarantined from them. The anchor said on air Tuesday that he still suffers from a low-grade fever and feared that his wife is now showing signs of the virus. Maybe it's because you're breaking isolation. Maybe it's because you're going and hanging out with your family. They're going to get sick. David said the woman who looked like Cuomo's wife came over to him and said, may I help you? He said he replied, I'm riding my bike, then started asking why Cuomo was there out of quarantine and not social distancing from the group. He said Cuomo then started toward him, coming to within about 40 feet. He said, who the hell are you? I can do what I want, David said. He just ranted, screaming, I'll find out who you are. I said to him, your brother is the coronavirus czar, and you're not even following his rules, unnecessary travel. he just began to boil more. He said, "This is not the end of this. You'll deal with this later. We will meet again. If that's not a threat, I don't know what is," David said. The man said he waited till Monday afternoon to call East Hampton cops to report the incident. "I hate bullies," David said. At first, the resident said he got huge pushback from police about filing a report. But by Tuesday morning, after the Post and other outlets reported Cuomo's meltdown, including about his run-in with the bicyclist, the police had a whole different attitude, David said. The man said he asked the investigating officer, "Any chance you saw the report about Cuomo's radio rant?" "Yes, we have," the cop said. "I think you'll like what we've written," the officer added, according to David, referring to the police report that was being prepared. David, who said he is a lifelong Democrat and voted for Andrew Cuomo for governor, added that he doesn't plan on pressing charges against Chris Cuomo unless I get any more feeling that this guy's a threat to me, adding that he just wanted to get something on the record. Let me show. So this was Monday, right? They claimed. This guy says it happened Easter. Easter was the 12th. What did CNN run on the 14th? Can Cuomo leave isolation? He shares update on his symptoms. And in it, he's basically told, no, you can't leave isolation. Sanjay Gupta, talking with Chris Cuomo, says something like, you've got to wait a week or so until after your symptoms subside before you can come out. Cuomo says, look, I'm sweating. You know what, man? These people are just putting on reality TV. That's all they do. So maybe there's something I missed because I'm not a regular viewer of this content. It's entirely possible I'm making a big mistake, and I'll accept that. Perhaps Chris Cuomo frequently says, I go out with my family during isolation. Perhaps they're saying he's only isolating from the city. I don't know. As far as I can tell, they've been claiming this dude's under quarantine, and that's why the guy on the bike called him out in the first place. When you do a Google search, you can see 10 hours ago, can Cuomo leave isolation? He shares an update. This story was also picked up by a bunch of other outlets. Can Cuomo leave isolation? KHQ 10 hours ago. So I have to wonder, what is it this man is really doing? Lying? CNN is doing primetime fake news? I don't know. Maybe he's lying to CNN. Maybe CNN didn't know he was really doing this. Regardless, Chris Cuomo, as one of the highest profile personalities for CNN, is lying to all of us as far as I can tell. Maybe he's lying to CNN. Will CNN come out and say anything about this? Will CNN now air admission? Chris Cuomo on his radio show confirmed the confrontation happened. How does that make sense? If we didn't have the statement from the guy on the bike and Chris Cuomo goes on his radio show and says some guy on a bike rolled up to me. Why? You were outside of your house? You're supposed to be quarantined. You're supposed to be isolated. How could you have an interaction with this person? Now that alone is probably not enough. Okay, so we don't know much about the details. He could have been, taking the trash out, or he could have been sitting on his porch. Who knows? But now we know from this guy on the bike, it was an empty property with no structure built other than a frame. He was there with multiple people, and now we know the full story. A police report has been filed. I really doubt this David guy lied to the cops because the story is now being corroborated. We'll see how this plays out. Back over at BuzzFeed, here's what they say. When Cuomo got mad, he said, why is there so much interest in what I said about my frustrations with my profession yesterday? He said, I've never been in a better position professionally than I am right now. But in a longer clip of Tuesday's show heard by The Hollywood Reporter, Cuomo denied ever making the comments to begin with. It's not true, he said. I never said it. I never meant it. Cuomo said that even before all this, he had recently signed a new long-term contract with CNN. I've never been more grateful. I've never been on a better team. I love where I am. I love the position that I've been given, and I love who I'm doing it with. Those are all matters of fact to me. Cuomo also elaborated on his frustrations of working in the media, which he said were exacerbated by his illness and the current political climate. I was talking about having legitimate questions, which I've had all along this administration, let alone with a fever and COVID for 2 weeks and being pissed off about being sick and rethinking a lot of things on an existential basis all the time, he said. It is frustrating to do this job in an environment where people are not interested and open. It is hard to practice journalism when people are so intent on believing what they want to believe for political advantage. It makes you question, is it worth the effort? Can I make a difference? You are talking about you have a fever. You're not isolating. You're ignoring it. So what are you telling people at CNN? What are you telling your bosses? And what are you telling the American people? Now, maybe we can put it this way. Does CNN as an institution know he's doing this, breaking quarantine? They certainly do now. Certainly they would stop doing these reports. They didn't stop. This report came out Monday. On Tuesday, they aired the "Can Chris leave isolation?" No, he can't. So on Monday, when everyone heard what he said on the radio, on Tuesday morning, when this story broke, where he straight up admitted to having some kind of interaction, okay, fine. Maybe CNN produced a segment, did the interview pre-recorded early, and did not know. But I'll show you this. The New York Post story about the Bicyclist. This is from yesterday at 5:34 p.m. It is fair to say that maybe the producers over at CNN did not realize the full context of the story is out, and we now know for a fact this dude is lying about isolating. Well, I should say, not that we know for a fact, but in all likelihood, it seems like we are able to confirm beyond a reasonable doubt, because Cuomo himself has confirmed a bit of the story, corroborating what we've been told. My question now is, will CNN apologize? Will Brian Stelter or Oliver Darcy, the media reporters over at CNN, address this? I'm going to go ahead and say a big fat no. Will CNN stop airing these "oh, poor Chris Cuomo in isolation" segments? I'm going to go ahead and bet no. Unless a bunch of people bring it up and a bunch of other journalists start reporting on the fact that Chris Cuomo just ran a fake news segment with Dr. Sanjay Gupta. The dude is not in isolation. CNN busted fake news. I'd like to see a statement. You think they're going to come out with one? I really doubt it. Yesterday, I talked a bit about what the networks become. I don't like to do all just like constantly rant about CNN. There's a bunch of other media outlets I like to point the finger at. One of the problems with CNN and their media reporters is that they only ever complain about Fox News. Certainly there's things to complain about with Fox News, but CNN is now crossing into uncharted territory. Now, let me be fair. MSNBC is substantially worse. Rachel Maddow peddled in overt and insane conspiracy theories. Chris Hayes had on a guy suggesting it was possible that Trump was an asset of the Russians since the 1980s. How insane do you have to be? What is this, a spy thriller? And CNN can't keep up, and they know it. And this plays into a bit of what I was saying the other day. Chris Cuomo, in one of the stories I read, basically said he's never going to beat Hannity or Maddow. So they've got to figure out what's their angle. How do they get better ratings than Fox News, than MSNBC? Well, for one, they can complain about Fox News all day and night. They don't do the same thing to MSNBC. Why is that? Why is it that someone over Fox News will say something conservative and they'll all come out and be like, look at this crazy opinion. And then Chris Hayes will have this lunatic on talking about Trump being a Russian asset, or Rachel Maddow will come out with some fringe conspiracy and they ignore it. They know where they can draw the line and where they can't. Fox News is ideologically opposed. They're aligning themselves with the left. But they can't take the same route. They can't be bombastic like Hannity. They can't be a conspiracy theorist like Rachel Maddow. But they can make things up. And that's what I think they're doing. So you look at the media reporters, they know they get play when they complain about Fox News. It works, even though what they say doesn't make any sense. That's why I do not think they'll address this. I do not think they'll apologize. They've become a reality TV network, and this is a hit show. Reality TV, man, Chris Cuomo at home. If Chris Cuomo is at home sick, have someone else fill in for him. When I'm sick, I don't call in, or if someone who works at a donut shop, when they get sick, they don't call in and let people know that they're going to talk about how they're sick or what they're donut. I get it. It's a media company, not a donut shop. The point is, when you're sick, someone comes in and fills in for you. But CNN knows reality TV sells, and this is their opportunity. So while they're talking about how Chris Cuomo is sweating, he's wiping his brow, I'm so sick and I have a fever, what he's really doing is taking a trip up to the Hamptons to be with his family. And when someone calls him out, the dude gets up in his face or whatever. I mean that figuratively, not literally, starts yelling at him. And then he admits it. We'll see how it plays out. I'm not going to be convinced. They're not going to say anything. They're going to ignore it. They're probably going to keep doing these segments. Fake news, CNN. I'll see you all in the next segment coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out.